Resist the Empire, a libertarian view of the Star Wars universe. This is your one-stop shop for news, events, and topics in the Star Wars canon. From a libertarian perspective, here are your hosts, Brian McQuaid and Roger Paxton.
Welcome to Resist the Empire. My name is Brian McQuaid.
And I'm Roger Paxton.
And today we're going to cover a couple of things here real quick. After our last episode, we decided on our new spoiler policy. So it's pretty much we just want to be excited about something when it comes out. Right. So essentially, if you don't want something to be spoiled, you either shouldn't listen until you've seen what we're going to be talking about in the episode, which we'll put in, the beginning of, the description underneath the episode, or we'll let you know spoiler warning.
Yeah, we'll definitely give you a spoiler warning, but we decided that, we're both so excited about Star Wars, and with all the new material coming out, if we didn't do spoilers, then we wouldn't be able to talk about things for sometimes weeks. And we want to do reaction videos to when the new movies come out and things like that. So, but we'll definitely give you a spoiler warning alert before we do that.
Yep. So that pretty much covers our spoiler policy, and we got a lot of news coming up here for our first segment.
Yeah.
The Holonet, your news source for current real-world news with a libertarian Star Wars twist.
Okay, guys, we have a ton of space news this week. So I've got 3 or 4 different articles here, and obviously this fits into Star Wars world perfectly because everything is in space. So we're going to start off here with the biggest news. This article from ABC, but you've probably seen it all over the place. It's the team of international astronomers that discovered 7 potentially habitable planets outside our solar system. So I'm just going to read a brief little excerpt from this. An international team of astronomers has discovered 7 potentially habitable exoplanets, or planets outside our solar system, that could have liquid surface water, according to a paper published today in the journal Nature. The discovery gives us a hint that finding a second Earth is not just a matter of if, but when, Thomas Kutcher, an associate administrator of the Science Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington, said at a news conference today. So this brings up a lot of questions.
It does. Yeah. And, the reason this is so exciting because they could have liquid surface water is because life, as we know it anyway, requires water. And that's super exciting that, we found these planets that more than likely do have liquid surface water. It's incredible.
Yeah, so essentially it's, with our, exponentially increasing technological advances, are we going to find it in our lifetime? I don't know. I sure hope so, because I'd just love to walk another planet with other humans.
That brings up a good question about the definition of life.
That's true.
Is life a single-celled organism from another planet? We'll probably find that in our lifetime. Will we find, life, reasoning life that can think and reason and communicate with us? Probably not in our lifetimes, but sure. I mean, there is almost without a doubt there's that sort of life out there. It's just trying to find it.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility it happens, but it's probably unlikely. So we'll both probably have to settle for the new Star Wars park, where there will be plenty of people walking around that look like they're alien beings.
Right, a Rodian or two.
Yeah,
Hammerhead.
Yeah, that would be nice. But I just love the idea that we find these planets out there now, and it gets me to thinking when are we going to be able to independently go into space? When can we have our own spaceship?
Well, it's only $20 million to go on a Russian spaceship.
I think we need some more. We need some more private industry to go searching for the oil reserves or something out in the planet.
Right, and it probably won't be oil. It'll probably be some sort of lithium or something like that you can get out of comets or whatever. And those things will certainly start to happen over the next few decades, without a doubt.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on to to another article here involving space. It talks a bit about this system, which is they've dubbed TRAPPIST-1.
It's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. So this article is from space.com. I just wanted to pull one paragraph out of here. It says, perhaps one of the most dramatic things that visitors to the TRAPPIST-1 system would notice is the view of the other 6 planets in the sky. In some cases, a neighboring planet might appear twice as large as the full moon seen from Earth. I just think that's super awesome.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, we see other planets as little bitty dots in the sky, and when Venus gets close, you can kind of see a little bit of a bigger dot, and it's a little blue. But that's all we can see. So being able to see these 6 planets really closely, that would be fascinating.
Yeah, our biggest thing is when we get our super moon, where it's like, oh look, it looks slightly bigger than it usually does. But I like the idea of a Tatooine, like planet where we don't just see 2 other planets, we see 6 other planets. Just the idea of that many in the sky.
Well, and also brings up The Force Awakens, where when they're on the planet and the Starkiller base has fired its weapon at the planets, and they can see the planets and see the explosions. Yeah. That would be so cool to be able to see something like that from your own planet. Imagine
that would be very beautiful.
Yeah. Minus all the destruction.
Other than the part with the destructive laser.
Right.
Another article here says, so this is a completely different topic. There are over 100 planets to be added to the solar system, our solar system. This article is from The Independent. Alan Stern, principal investigator of NASA's New Horizons mission to Pluto, along with 5 colleagues, has written a manifesto rewriting the definition of what constitutes being a planet. One of the key changes is that worlds no longer need to be orbiting the sun to be considered planets, according to the Times. If the proposals are accepted by the International Astronomical Union, the current 8-planet solar system could see more than 100 added to it.
And my wife was mentioning that she believes this is probably more of a PR move because, for us to go investigate these moons, Europa, Titan, all of these moons and stuff, it needs to be more sexy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, more important.
We're going to another planet instead of we're going to another moon, because we see the moon in the sky every day.
And so people think, well, it's right there. What's so great about a moon? But I mean, this brings me on to kind of a Star Wars point here. The forest moon of Endor, that was a moon,
right?
So moons are a lot more than just this rock.
Sure. And moons can have ecosystems, and look at Europa and all of the volcanic eruptions and the things that go on there. And moons are definitely just as fascinating as planets, without a doubt. It also brings up that the definition of planet is kind of arbitrary. It was, a few scientists got together and decided, okay, this is what a planet's going to be. And then, of course, Pluto got moved out of being a planet.
Yeah,
and
it'll be
a dwarf planet.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that as we're learning more about space and the sciences, those definitions are going to shift. And I think that I don't see any issue with this at all. I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, the one issue that I see is, could this be a problem for the forest moon of Endor? Because the planet it circles is planet Endor. So we're now going to possibly have the forest planet of Endor circling the planet of Endor.
The smaller planet of Endor. Right.
So I could see that might be a bit of an issue.
Sure.
Another story from NBC News. NASA wants to send a submarine to Titan.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So the latest idea is to send a submarine to explore Titan's alien seas. The mission study, with funding from NASA, Innovative Advanced Concepts, an initiative for projects by scientists who think outside the box. It's in its infancy. We do these really advanced, almost science fiction, but never actually science fiction studies that are meant to show what might be possible in the future, says NIAC's program executive Jason Derleth. A Titan sub fits that bill perfectly.
Yes, it does.
And so my question is, what is that bill, Roger? How much is that going to be for?
Right. Well, of course, it's government funded, so it's going to cost billions of dollars, billions upon billions of dollars. I mean, this could certainly be done by a private company that wants to see what sort of materials, minerals could be on this planet to use to our advantage and to sell. Because sure, there's going to be some very rare materials there, at least rare on our planet, that would probably be on that planet. So could it be profitable for a private company? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this as well. I mean, we already see what Musk and Bezos are doing with their private industries to try and get out into space and find more economically viable ways to do this. And because these guys are involved in high-tech industries, where there could be a high potential for profit, especially with minerals that we don't have here on Earth. Sure. Who knows what's out there? Perhaps we have the mineral that can power the hyperdrive.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you mentioned Bezos and Musk. My issue with them is they are still so heavily subsidized. So Are they really technically private industry? I mean, it's definitely more private than NASA, without a doubt, but they're still so heavily subsidized. And it's definitely a step in the right direction. I just, a lot of people talk about the separation of church and state. I think we need to separate science and state long before we do religion and state.
Yeah, I can agree with that, especially when you talk about the climate change advocates, right. And they almost all of the advocates for that get their grant funding from the government.
Sure.
So it's they have no choice essentially but to find the data that props up their version of the story so they can keep getting that funding because they want their money.
Right. And you hope and believe that science doesn't work that way, but money is a powerful motivator. And when there's money involved, it can skew things without a doubt.
Yeah, so hopefully no slavery is used like the spice mines of Kessel and on this planet, because not only is that anti-libertarian, but it wouldn't be cost efficient. Titan is negative 270 degrees Fahrenheit. So.
Well, but again, that goes back to life as we know it. Could there be some life there? And of course, it'd be subterranean, which would be fascinating. Brings up the whole concept of the what was the movie that I forgot. But anyway, it brings up a lot of ideas for sure.
Yeah. So so I that pretty much sums up our news segment for the time being here. So let's move on to our next section.
Which Star Wars canon character will we dissect in this episode of Galaxy's Smallest Political Quiz?
So, this episode of our Galaxy's Smallest Quiz, and it's going to star Han Solo.
Han Solo.
So, it's a bit of a softball, this one.
It is, but it'll be interesting to follow this one anyway.
Yeah, it's just really fun for us as libertarians, because I think it goes without saying almost that Han Solo epitomizes the libertarian philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's definitely anti-state. He or at least as far as I can think of in the movies, he doesn't initiate force against anyone. And like he says, he's in it for the money. He's a capitalist. He wants to make his money.
Yeah, and you actually, I pulled a couple quotes here, and you actually nailed that one. I'm in it for the money is literally one of his lines. Yeah. There's really nothing more capitalist than that. Right. And I have a couple other ones here. The hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid. He's pro-gun.
Yeah, and pro-gun, pro-carrying a gun.
Yes, yeah. Now, he open carries, but I imagine he would conceal carry as well.
Oh, well, then don't tell me he doesn't have a second gun hidden somewhere in his body.
That's true.
Surely he does.
Obviously, he was concealed carry on Hoth. I mean,
right.
Imagine, I think would probably freeze on the outside there. But, and then probably one of my favorite ones ever is, look your worshipfulness. I love that. Let's get one thing straight. I take orders from just one person, me.
And that is very much libertarian because, libertarians don't believe that we should be forced to follow orders from other people, especially at the point of a gun, which is what we pretty much have to do when government tells us to do something, because the threat of the gun is always there. Because if the government tells me not to speed and I speed, a cop's going to pull me over and he's going to tell me that I owe them some money. If I decide not to go to court, then some cops are going to show up at my house to take me away. If I decide I don't want to go with them, they're going to pull out guns and they're going to point them at me. And that's for something as simple as speeding.
Yeah, and that's a victimless crime.
Sure.
You haven't hurt anyone.
Right.
Nothing's been done. And
Right.
now we're going to take your money away and possibly put you away in jail at the taxpayer's expense, by the way.
Right.
So now they're stealing from other people to put someone else in.
So now, and if there was a victim and they put somebody in jail, now that person's a double victim. So first of all, they've been victimized by the criminal, and now they're being victimized because they have to pay to house the criminal. Where's the justice in that? Criminals should be paying for their own housing, as far as I'm concerned, and working that off. But that's an entirely different story. Stay on target. Stay on target.
Yeah, so Han's very much a believer in individual rights.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to be told what to do, and he doesn't go around telling other people what to do. He just wants to be left alone to do his own thing.
Yep. So we're going to go through the galaxy's smallest political quiz questions on this one, and we still haven't changed these questions yet. We're still working on that, but again, if you have any ideas for how we can maybe throw some questions in here that are more Star Wars related, please let us know at Twitter at Empire Resistor, or by email. You can email Brian at resisttheempirepodcast.com. So the first question on the world's smallest galaxy's smallest political quiz is: government should not censor speech, press, media, or internet. What do you think?
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he does not want his speech suppressed.
Right.
He's got things to say, and he wants you to know what those things are.
He does. He does. So we have to definitely agree with that one for sure. Han Solo definitely agrees. Military service should be voluntary. There should be no draft.
Yeah, definitely would agree with that. I think that's fair to say.
Sure. There should be no laws regarding sex for consenting adults.
I think we can emphatically say he definitely believes that should not be a thing.
You don't think he wants the government in his and Leia's veteran? Repeal laws prohibiting adult possession and use of drugs. Now, while we don't ever have any evidence of Han Solo doing drugs were obviously pretty prevalent in the Star Wars universe, and as a smuggler, it's possible that he would transfer some drugs, in his smuggling duties. Very possible.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
There should be no national ID card.
Yeah, please.
Han Solo doesn't want to be ID.
That's the last thing he wants.
Right. End corporate welfare. No government handouts to business.
Yeah, I don't see it. I'm trying to think of a specific example, or I can't think of anything in particular.
Well, the rebellion, while not technically a government, they wanted to be a government, and they became a government later. Did they give out handouts? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would probably say he doesn't agree with.
I just don't see his character agreeing with that.
End government barriers to international free trade.
Yeah, he doesn't want any barriers to trade, I guess. Yeah. Well, I guess we can cover the kind of my feelings on that a bit later on the next one. Is it the next one?
We can go and talk about it now.
So, my concern is, I think the one holdup for me on this one would be if he got funding, if everything was open completely to free trade, he might not get paid nearly as well as he does now as a smuggler.
Sure, because being on the black market, obviously prices go up because there's scarcity. There's a lot less people willing to put their life and their money at risk by being a smuggler. So there's scarcity in people who can move those kind of products.
Yeah. So my feeling is if there was no barriers to free trade and anyone could do this, I feel like his skill set all of a sudden isn't really needed as
not
much.
as in demand.
Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of pilots out there, but there's not a lot of pilots willing to risk their lives to do
Transport
things illegally.
goods
Right.
just for money. Yeah.
So, and my disagreement, I guess, with that would be that he does still have a lot of skills. He's a fantastic pilot. He's a pretty good shot. He's obviously a wheeler and a dealer. He's a gambler. He has a lot of skills that I think that he could still make his way in the world, so to speak, even without smuggling. Yeah. So, but at the same time, smuggling is a pretty lucrative business when it's available.
Yeah.
So
when it dries up a little bit.
So I think on this one we just don't have enough evidence. I think we'll have to go with maybe.
Yeah.
On this one. Yeah. Let people control their own retirement. Privatize Social Security. I can't imagine seeing Han Solo on Social Security.
No, that would never happen.
Right. So we just have to agree with that one. Replace government welfare with private charity.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think. I mean, he's definitely like a me first guy, right? But he's not heartless.
No, he's not. He did risk a lot by coming back to help Luke Skywalker in defeating the first Death Star.
Yeah.
That was, while he's a selfish person, and that brings up a lot of Ayn Rand and the virtue of selfishness. At the same time, being selfish, being greedy is one thing, but when you're greedy, you still have value in other things.
True.
So I consider myself a very selfish person, but I still, give my wife and children lots of things that I, like money and a house to live and all of these things, and because I find value in them, and I find value in sharing what I have and sharing my life with them. And the same with Han Solo. He found, even as a selfish person, he found value in wanting to help Princess Leia because he loved her, and helping his best friend Luke Skywalker. He didn't want to see them come to harm.
Yeah, and I think there's a misconception out there that libertarians are heartless people, that they're cold people because they're all about capitalism and they want to keep all of their money and they don't want it taken from them. They feel, there are people out there that will say, well, we've got to help these people that are less fortunate than us, because the only way that can happen is if we take your money from you and give it out. You can't do that yourself. And we were actually speaking earlier today about someone in our town that had something happen to them, and I donated money to help their medical funds.
And nobody had to hold a gun to your head to force you to give this charity?
Yeah, that's it. Wow. It's because I love my town and I love the people in this town.
Right.
And so I choose to help people when I have the expendable income. How many more people could I help if I had all of my money?
Right.
Because I can tell you one thing, 100% of my taxes do not go to 100% of the programs that they are supposed to support.
Well, sure. And not to mention the fact that a lot of your tax dollars go to things that you probably find morally reprehensible. A lot of our money is spent killing other people around the world in wars. And that is money that is being spent against my will. I do not want to fund wars. Unfortunately, I have no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So another example is I do Children's International. So
right.
I help support children that are overseas that are in less fortunate situations. I choose to do that, and I would be able to do that at home as well if we had some kind of program like that here. You're a little more limited with privacy laws, et cetera, and whatnot. But it's a misconception to think that libertarians are cold and heartless. I think most people that know me know that nothing's further from the truth, and they would feel the same way about you.
True.
And
we just want to be able to dictate where our dollars go.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think Han is the same way.
I can't disagree. Can't disagree at all. Yeah. And the last one is cut taxes and government spending by 50% or more. Yeah, I definitely think that, he was an agorist. An agorist is someone who continues to do business outside of government influence. They don't pay taxes. They don't get licenses. They basically are black market or gray market. and he was certainly that. So his money wasn't taxed.
Yeah, it's safe to say that if he was taxed, that he wouldn't want to be taxed,
Right.
given his personality.
Sure. So, answering these questions, it's very clear that Han Solo definitely comes out. Personal issues score at 100%. Economics issue score at 90%. He is firmly in the top of the diamond as a libertarian, and there's no question. I mean, of course, he was probably very, very much a voluntarist for sure. Someone who didn't believe in government and didn't believe that government should be involved in his everyday life.
Yeah,
So
I would agree with that.
Tatooine Times. Here's the latest news you need to know from the Star Wars canon movies, TV shows, books, comics, and more.
Okay, so we're going to start off, since we were talking about Han Solo there, we're going to start off talking about the movie that's filming, and they just started filming the new Han Solo.
Yeah, I saw a picture floating around the internet of one of the people involved in the principal photography, and he had a shirt that said Han's first shot instead of Han shot first because they started the filming. I thought that was brilliant.
That's great. So the article here I'm looking at is from the Mirror, and they've got the photo with everyone sitting in the Millennium Falcon here, and we got Woody Harrelson. I'm interested in seeing how he fits in there. I honestly never would have pegged him as a actor to star in a Star Wars film.
Me either, but after he did such a great job or at least I thought so, in Hunger Games, I think he could be a good fit. It'll be interesting to see what he plays and how that plays out.
Yeah, from what I understand, it sounds like he's going to be the mentor figure to the young Han Solo, who's played by Alden Ehrenreich, I think is pronounced. Ehrenreich. Yeah. I will say I'm a little concerned about this. Han is a very sacred character to many people.
He is.
So I really feel that this guy needs to absolutely nail this role, or it's going to be a bit of a problem for Disney.
Well, I'm not afraid to say that I shed a bit of a tear when, spoiler alert, when Han Solo was killed in The Force Awakens. Because, I grew up loving Han Solo and watching these characters. So, yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a very difficult one to pull off. And frankly, I don't think that this Alden looks much like Harrison Ford at all.
Yeah,
that
I
certainly
agree.
Concerns me.
Yeah, that was one of the things I think we were talking about the other day. I had brought up, and that's one of my concerns, because it kind of takes you out of not of your comfort zone, but it kind of takes you out of
the story a little bit.
Yeah, out of what you're used to. I don't mind some deviation. But looking at him as he is here, he doesn't really look like it. So he really needs to nail the voice, the mannerisms, these types of things that will convince me this was the right choice.
Yeah, and of course, in the picture they have here, they have him in a brown leather coat. Of course, they do. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see. He's going to have some really solid acting chops to come behind. Harrison Ford and really make this character and be who this character is.
Yeah,
so
and
we'll see.
And so one of the other things in the photo is we have Chewbacca, and so a bit of sad news. Peter Mayhew is no longer going to be playing Chewbacca in any capacity. Yeah. That role is going to be taken over by Eunice Satomo, and that's a bit sad. We've lost a lot of our favorite actors and characters over the last year. So with Carrie Fisher, Kenny Baker, so it's been a tough year, and this is just another one where it's just a little sad.
Yeah, even though Peter Mayhew is still around, of course, physically he just can't, do what he needs to do, and that's part of his issue with being so tall. His knees are wrecked from it, and he just can't do the physical part of being Chewbacca. But I have heard that Eunice, of course, they worked together on The Force Awakens. Eunice did play some of the Chewbacca parts, so they've worked together. I definitely think that this can work.
Yeah, it sounds like when they were working together, that there was a very some comfortability between the two of them. Peter tried to teach him some of the things, the mannerisms that Chewbacca does. and it sounds like that went really well. So Eunice he was a basketball player from Finland or something like that, and so but because he's younger, he's going to be more active. So I think in this movie we'll see him kind of jumping around, maybe being a lot more active than the Chewbacca we're used to seeing.
Yeah. I mean, even in the original trilogy, Chewbacca, was kind of awkward a little bit in the way that he kind of moved, I guess, because it's such a tall character. So it's going to be interesting to see how that awkwardness comes out in Eunice. Because obviously somebody tall like that could be awkward.
Yeah. So since we're talking about movie news here, we'll also talk about the Carrie Fisher reshoots. So with episode 8, all of her stuff was done already. Yeah. And it's from everything that I've read, she was supposed to be a significant portion of episode 9 as well.
Right.
So there has to be changes, obviously. They've already said they're not doing CG.
And I think that is the worst idea ever. And look, we have the technology, and they used the technology in Rogue One. We have the technology to do this. I don't know why they feel like they need to change the story, especially if it was already to a point where it was tightly written, they had the ending they wanted. I think that this is a big mistake to not just use the CGI.
Yeah, for me personally, I thought that Cushing's character was much better in Star Wars than Carrie Fisher's, as far as the look of the CGI. Now, granted, they only did a little bit with her towards the end, and it was a younger version of her. So I think part of the feeling there may be within Disney, we don't want to go over top of what she's just done with this new CGI. Maybe they felt there would be like a little bit of disrespect there. I know she really loved the young version of her from everything I read. She was blown away by that. But I think that maybe they want to tread very lightly with this. They don't want to take the risk on messing it up. And it's very expensive and very time consuming as well to do it. And if she was used significantly, I think Tarkin was only 8 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, about 8 minutes a time in Rogue One.
But Disney's been doing this for a long time. Tron was a great example where they had the older and the younger version of the same guy, and that was a big part of the movie. So Disney's been doing this for a long time. So the technology is there. The technology is good. So you've got to be right. It's got to be an issue of respecting the family, respecting Carrie Fisher and her memory. But I'm concerned that having edits in the story this late could make episode 9 into something not as good as what it could have been.
Or certainly not what they planned on.
Right.
That much is obvious. They had that emergency meeting, and these reshoots, from what I can kind of tell, they're going to do some kind of tribute to her. They must be changing the scenes around maybe in a way to make what she did more memorable and probably more heart touching.
Do you think they'll kill her off in the movie with these reshoots?
I feel that I think that the possibility is there for either killing her in Ep 8 or the beginning of Ep 9, like we find out. Hey, there's an easy off-screen way to do that in Star Wars, and it's, hey, this convoy went down, and General Leia was on there. So I don't know if that's the route they're going to take. It's kind of hard to kill her character on screen now, I guess. I mean, you could use the CGI at least for a portion, but they've already said they're not doing that, so I don't really know how they're going to do this.
Well, and it's going to be interesting to see if they do kill her off in the movies, how that's going to affect Kylo Ren. Because he's lost his dad. Yeah. Now he loses his mother.
It really affects the major story arc because was she going to help turn him back to the light side? Right. Was that going to be a plan? If so, what do you do now? Now both of his parents are gone,
Well, and it depends on how they play it out. Will Luke maybe fill in that role of, hey, I'm Uncle Luke?
Will Rey help bring him back.
If that's even the way that they're going.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
who knows?
Yeah, the story may have changed in significant ways, and I'm sure we'll find out what that is probably after episode 9. I would imagine will the entire story come out about what the original arc was supposed to be prior to Carrie Fisher's death.
Will Kylo Ren have another temper tantrum?
Right.
If he finds out his mom is dead.
Yeah. So and then one bit of good news here to finish it up. Rogue One arrives on digital HD March 24th and on Blu-ray April 4th. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get it.
I've been watching it my BitTorrent for a while. So.
Yeah, but I like to see the extra scenes.
Yeah,
I like to see the extra commentary, stuff like that comes with the Blu-ray. So as soon as that's available, I will be picking that up.
Yeah, and speaking of, read a rumor just the other day that, I wish I had prepared this for show notes, that it's very possible that they will be re-releasing in the theaters the original trilogy before all of the 1990 changes.
Wow.
That would be fascinating.
I think that would do huge money, too.
It probably would. I personally like a lot of the edits
Yeah.
that were made later on, but I definitely can understand that feeling of change. People grew up with these movies. I grew up with these movies.
Yeah.
So, some of the changes are a bit jarring between the,
I think what people will want even more, if they plan on doing that, is the re-release of those originals on Blu-ray or, that type of format digitally, whatnot.
Well, George Lucas was adamant that was never going to happen, but of course now George Lucas is no longer
Has no say in it. Yeah.
So
I think it'll make a lot of people happy because there are so many people that still like to complain to this day about those changes. They want those original versions, and that's fine. I'm fine with all versions of Star Wars.
Well, and there's lots of movies out there like that. Blade Runner is a good example.
Yeah.
Where you can get the original or you can get the director's cut.
There's like 3 or 4, like maybe even more versions of that movie.
Sure. And I think that Star Wars could be the same way. As a matter of fact, there are actually some versions out there that you can get on torrent sites and things like that have tried to remove a lot of those edits.
Oh, wow.
And take it back to the original.
Yeah.
Obviously done very amateurishly. Not quite as good as using the original material. But people definitely have a want for that. If people are spending their hard-earned time on that, then people definitely want it.
Yeah, and I think that about wraps up the Tatooine times.
Until next time.
May the non-initiation of Force be with you.
Thank you for listening to Resist the Empire. Find us online at resisttheempirepodcast.com and on Twitter at Empire Resister. Never miss an episode by subscribing on any podcatcher or by going to resisttheempirepodcast.com/subscribe. This has been a PAX Libertas Productions podcast.